Hi, good afternoon. Uh, Now I'm going over the part two of the data analysis project. In this part, you're expected to continue to work on the Excel file that was created in part one. And in the second part, we are working on how to create the pivot tables to summarize your data. So that's what we are going to do today. Now, let's follow the directions. So now, of course, you all have that directions with you. So the first thing it says to you in the direction is go to the data worksheet. So this is the data worksheet, as you can see, created in part one, and click A1. So if you click here, you will see A1 here. So that means you have selected the correct cell, and then you go up to the insert tab of your Excel. So when you click on that insert tab, you will see a pivot table. So click on that pivot table. Make sure there is a marquee going around all the data that you need. So that's the first thing that you have to understand about it. And then here you select the existing worksheet, because I have already created a worksheet down here which says pivot table. So once you select that, go to that pivot table. Okay, now and then select the first cell. So that's going to be A1 again. If you are doing for cost of goods sold, maybe you will select somewhere around 9 or 10, depending upon the data table that you already have. So I'm going to work with one aspect of it, that's going to be the sales. The rest of it I will be leaving for you to complete and then summarize the data. Okay, so if you do that, then hit OK. Once you hit OK, remember you will be seeing this here. To build a report, choose fields. So the fields are here, and there are four what I call segments of a pivot table: filters, columns, summation values, and rows. So what you are going to do is, first on the right hand side you will see the company name, year, and sales. So that's what you are selecting: company name, click year, and sales. So you have selected the three fields here. Make sure that you have selected all the three fields. Now Excel will automatically decide where to keep them, because the company name and year are not numeric fields, so they will just put it there. Now because the year field, what we have done is we have used FY. So this is a kind of a alphanumeric, so it will take it as, not take it as a data value, because it's alphanumeric. So you will see this kind of pivot table working out. This is not the final one that we are going to do. So that is your step number two. First, select those fields, and then in the step number three, it says drag the year from the fields to the columns. So here you can see year. So if you just hover your mouse, you will see a cross kind of a thing. So you just click it and drag it down so it comes to the year. So in the pivot table, you'll be able to see the 3 years, fiscal year 16, 17, and 18 in a grand total. So when you do that, that is what will happen. Now the next thing you're going to do is this sum of sales. I don't want to call it sum of sales, so I'm going to rename it. How do I rename it? You see a downward arrow at the end of that sum of sales. Just click on that. So if you click on that, there is an option and you go to value settings. So you can see the value setting options. Now, sum of sales is already pre-filled. Now what we are doing is we are calling it as annual sales. So I am typing that annual sales, and make sure the summarize value by is selected. There are two tabs: show value as and summarize value by. I'm selecting summarize value by for the annual sales. And in here, there are other options of the summarization. Will be selecting the sum field. So make sure this is selected and hit OK. Now, uh, okay, this didn't go up. So this is annual uh, sales. Okay. So that is selected and I hit OK. Now the name changes to annual sales. So that is your step number 4. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go to step number 5. Of course, you have to hit OK before saving it. Now that's important information. Now, step number 5, you're going to drag the sales from the fields. So you're again dragging the sales, select it, drag it down to the summation value. Now, in the summation value, now what we want is we want to rename it as percentage different from previous year. So click downward arrow, select value field settings, and in the name field you are going to type percentage difference from previous year. Now what in this one what we want is we want to show the value as, so that's why what you are going to do is we are going to select this one, the second tab, not the summarize value by, but show value as. And when you go down here, if you just click downward, you will see percentage difference from. So that's what you're selecting. Please select percentage difference from. And when you are in this base field, make sure that you have selected year, not the company name. So this is going to be year, and here on the base item you have to select the previous one. Make sure you have selected that. So then what you're going to do is you're going to hit OK. So you can see that the pivot table has generated a table um, which gives you the annual sales for the 3 companies and the percentage different from previous year. In the first percentage difference column, I don't see anything because previous year would have been fiscal year 15. I don't have the data, so that's why I don't have any figures here. But I see a 6.3% and 0.79% and 0.53%. So those are the percentages that have changed. Okay, so now what we want is, the next thing that we want to do is you want to go up here and select A1 here. When you click here, A1, tab opens up on Excel. So that is going to be, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select design. So in that I have several options. So what I'm going to do, one thing that I want to do is I just click on this grand total and have only for the columns. I don't want across because it doesn't make sense. So now you can see this is the table that I have created. That's the output. Now what you can do is you can always kind of simplify this by just dragging the cells, and then of course make sure that these have of course output as wrap text, so that the text gets automatically wrapped. And then in the column labels you can always go up here and say fiscal years, and then you can, in the row labels you can type as companies, so that you have information appropriately organized. So that is how you will be creating the pivot table. Now I have completed for the sales one. So these also the figures, what you can do is only the figures you can always put a comma, so that you have only select the figures, not the percentages. Okay, so just the figures and put a comma so that you have the information organized appropriately. Now, the next thing that you are going to do is again repeat the process, same steps for cost of goods sold, gross profit, net income, and then of course, whenever you see sales, you replace that with the cost of goods sold. For example, if you're going back again, what you're going to do, if you want to start with the cost of goods sold, click on the data table, click on A1 cell, insert pivot table, and then existing worksheet, go down to pivot tables and select here row 10. Okay, so that is what you can do and hit OK. Now you have started a new pivot table. For now, what we are going to do is instead of sales, I'm going to select cost of goods sold. So that's why I'll be selecting company name, year, cost of goods sold, and then repeat the process that I showed it to you. So that is how you are going to work on the pivot tables. Once you have what you call completed the pivot tables, uh, study the data. So like here, the sales has increased from Johnson and Johnson company by 6.3%, 6.34%, but for Merck it has increased only 0.79. For Pfizer, so comparatively, Johnson and Johnson company sales has increased by a substantial amount. But as you progress through, as compared to 17 and 18, in 18 the sales figure increased by 6.71 for Johnson and Johnson, and for Merck it is 5.41, and for Pfizer is 2.1. So that is the information that you have, and you can do a comparative one. As you can see, Johnson and Johnson seems to be a stable sales, but Merck has increased their sales. So you may want to see, was there something unusual happening between the year 17 and 18. And again for Pfizer, it was decreased, the sales was decreased, but now it has increased. So the performance has increased. So you want to do that. And then when you have the data for all of them, you will have to comment about their cost control, about their net income using, and the gross profit using the information that you have generated in the pivot table. So now the requirement number 2 is you are supposed to comment on some individual corporate and industry trends as you see. So what you are supposed to do is take a screenshot of this, all the four tables. So you can do one by one, or you can do, if you can fit all four, probably it will be better if you do one by one. So you can have 4 screenshots, and then you provide a narrative with your comments on the corporate and industry trends you saw in the pivot table. So that is all that I am asking.